This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we've got a completely unexpected ruling here as it relates to the AP having access to the Oval Office, which was an issue that I thought was resolved, and yet, as the result of this surprise ruling, not so sure now. Can you explain what just happened in a federal appeals court?
Yeah, this is an absolutely outrageous decision. Okay, it's outrageous every which way. It's outrageous what Donald Trump did. It's outrageous how the legacy media responded. And it's outrageous how this court ruled. Essentially, Donald Trump decided to get vengeance, revenge against the Associated Press because in its style guide, it refers to the Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of Mexico. Now, you might think that that would be sort of a minor matter for the president of the United States, but no. Because they refused to rename the Gulf of Mexico what Donald Trump wants to call it, he barred the Associated Press from the Oval Office, Air Force One, various other places. This seemed like a no-brainer for the legacy media, right? You'd figure they'd walk out when they did that. They didn't, right? They continued to show up and let AP hang out to dry. AP sued. Again, this seems like a no-brainer for the courts. After all, this is discriminating against a media outlet on the basis of the content of their speech, namely what they call the Gulf of Mexico. They won at the trial court, and now at the Court of Appeals, they drew a fairly conservative panel in the D.C. Court of Appeals. They have lost with respect to most of the case. They lost with respect to all of the private spaces in the White House, but not the East Room, rooms where all credentialed media are allowed in, but where there are these pool reporters, smaller spaces like Air Force One or the Oval Office. Oddly, inexplicably, the D.C. Court of Appeals said that the President of the United States can engage in viewpoint discrimination and can bar the Associated Press.
Okay, so they drew this conservative panel. Does that mean that the AP can then appeal for some degree of en banc review, which is the entire appeals court?
Yeah, so the AP has a couple of choices here. Number one, they can seek what's referred to as en banc review, which is, as you say, to ask the full D.C. Circuit to rule. So, we are used to 3-judge Court of Appeals panels. Well, those panels are drawn from a larger pool of appeals court judges in a circuit, and there is a process to ask all of the judges in a given circuit to rule, and that is an option to them. That's discretionary whether the D.C. Circuit wants to do so. If the D.C. Circuit took it en banc, I am positive AP would win, just looking at the composition of the full D.C. Circuit. The second possibility is that they go to the U.S. Supreme Court and they just say, you know what, we're just going to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to block this because this is so obviously wrong, and that is a second option available to them. I want to continue to say, though, that the thing that should be happening in the meantime is that the legacy media should be walking out of the Oval Office. They should not be getting on Air Force One. They should deny Donald Trump the thing that he wants more than anything, which is press coverage. And the fact that they continue to show up at the expense of AP is a reason why the legacy media has the trouble it is having. And it is the reason, Brian, why people like you, like Democracy Docket that I started, like other independent non-corporate media are thriving because people understand that there is a principle behind us in what we do. And you compare that to what you see the legacy media doing to the Associated Press, and you understand the reasons why they're having so much trouble.
I mean, just to dig into that a little bit, what would happen if we saw an analogous situation where a Democratic president decided to, try and prevent Fox News, for example, from being able to ask a certain question?
Well, we know exactly what would happen because the Obama White House in 2009 tried to exclude Fox News from a single interview that was provided to the pool of reporters involving the then pay czar at the Treasury Department. This wasn't the Oval Office. It wasn't the president. This was literally a Treasury Department official. And the legacy media went crazy. I mean, they all stood up for Fox News. I think Jake Tapper called Fox News a sister organization. and they all said, basically, you have to let Fox News in or else we're all boycotting. And that's what would happen.
Yeah. And so why do you presume if you have the liberal media that stood up for Fox News, that now we have the AP, which is certainly not right wing, but you have nobody on the right, for example, stepping up for the AP, even though you had the evil communist Marxist liberal media stepping up for its sister organization, Fox.
Look, I think there are two reasons. I think the first is that the corporate ownership of the legacy media is much more pro-Trump. Like, let's be honest, they are all tripping over themselves to hand out checks to him. I mean, they're settling nonsense lawsuits to put money in his pocket. They were flying to his inauguration, right?
Yeah.
Like, so part of it is that they may not, to be clear, agree with him on a lot of policy, but whether they are fearful of him or they feel like they need a friendship with him, they are not looking to pick fights with him in a way that they were just fine picking fights with Barack Obama. But the second is that at an individual journalist level, there continues to be this need on their part, like an emotional need to bend over backwards to show that they are not liberal, right? That they are, in fact, in solidarity with conservatives. I mean, you watch some of the questioning about the Joe Biden, the books about Joe Biden, and you just are left scratching your head. I mean, the performativeness of so much of the legacy media now to suggest that the conservative media was right all along, that, that Fox News and others might have been wrong. I mean, like, they just, if Fox News was banned from something, in the next White House, the legacy media would stand up for Fox.
Correct.
News. AP, as you said, straight down the middle, not a liberal outlet by any stretch of the imagination. And the legacy media feels like, you know what, we don't want to piss off Trump. And by the way, there's no performative benefit to us for standing up for AP.
Right. I completely agree. And they will continue to pretend that they've that they're these beacons of, democracy dies in darkness in the immediate aftermath of this. Going back to this case in particular, though, what are next steps here as we await some resolution, whether they, as you mentioned, decide to seek en banc review or immediately go up to the Supreme Court for a ruling?
Yeah, so I suspect they will first seek en banc review because I suspect that that they are doing the same head counting that I am doing.
Right.
And like, it's really hard to imagine that if the full DC circuit was to consider this case, they would hold that the First Amendment doesn't apply in the Oval Office because it's the president's workspace.
Yeah.
I mean, like that. Like, I mean, first of all, I'm not sure that this president has what I would describe as a workspace. But most of what he does in the Oval Office seems to be to, like, paint things gold.
Yeah.
And otherwise do these weird sort of photo op things with foreign leaders.
Remember when he used to hand out maps to people showing the county by county results of his election win? Like, that's what he would bring them to the Oval Office to do.
No, that's exactly right. And now, he embarrasses himself in front of the world. He recently had the Chancellor of Germany, in which he was suggesting to the Chancellor of Germany that D-Day was a sad day for Germany. And the Chancellor of Germany had to point out that it actually was liberating Germany from the Nazis.
Yeah. Is there some concern that if the AP doesn't seek en banc review, then this will leave in place precedent, because now this is an appeals court who's ruled this way, that this will leave in place precedent that could impact other news organizations that Trump wants to ban from certain places in the White House?
Absolutely. I mean, it is precedent. I mean, this is the D.C. circuit.
Right.
The White House is in Washington, D.C. These news outlets are almost all, the reporters trying to get in are almost all D.C. based.
Right.
And so if they don't get en banc review, I assume they will then seek U.S. Supreme Court review. And I have to think the U.S. Supreme Court would also come out the other way in favor of the AP. But it is also possible that the Supreme Court just doesn't take the case.
Right.
So, which is the reason why I think they start with the en banc review. But Brian, I realize I've been like a one note band on this, but I want to come back to this. The way that this can get resolved without the courts having to be the final arbiter is for the media to just stand up.
Right.
Like they held the White House Correspondents' event. And, I think it was Alex Thompson used it as an opportunity to say that they had not been tough enough on Joe Biden. How about the White House Correspondents' event or the White House Correspondents Association just come out and say, we're going to boycott the Oval Office.
Right.
Like, Brian, don't you think that would do the trick?
100%. You starve Donald Trump of attention and you don't think he's going to react to that? You don't put him on TV every 5 minutes? This guy that's his lifeblood. So you're exactly right. And look, I think that you're also right in terms of the fact that legacy media has proven that while they can flash these, democracy dies in darkness banners when it doesn't matter, the fact that when it does matter, they shirk away from their purported values tells you everything you need to know about how they actually feel, what their values actually are. And it puts organizations like yours, like Democracy Docket, in stark contrast to what they're doing right now. So look, for everybody watching, a small step that we can do to support invaluable work like Mark and his team, please make sure to subscribe to Democracy Docket's YouTube channel. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but it's especially important right now in light of the ways that legacy media is dropping the ball and failing to meet the urgency of this moment, that we elevate outlets like Mark's. So again, link is right here on the screen and also in the post description. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Mark Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.